I think now, no? So good afternoon, everyone. To us, it's a pleasure to be in a challenging panel today, quite before lunch. So I think we will enjoy this panel because we are working in the most human sector, that is tourism. So it's my pleasure to be here today with top leaders, with top energy, that of course are working not only to foster the tourism innovation ecosystem, but also to work with the startups in order to bring added value jobs. So my first question here is for all the panelists is, how do you feel the tourism sector has been evolving regarding new technologies? How are you working with new technologies inside your companies? Here, of course, we have Antonia Branson from the Branson Center. We have Gabriel from Iberia. We have Justin from Cathay Pacific. We have our wonderful Marion from Amadeus. And of course, we have a top investor. He represents Top Seed Labs, that is the biggest venture capital fund in Spain, specialized on tourism. So here we have the whole ecosystem. And I would like to hear you, how the tourism sector has been disrupting the way we travel. And of course, what are you doing to innovate?
I will go.
Of course.
So, okay, it's a quite a wide question. So, I think, generally speaking, as you said, travel and transportation is a very human sector. It's all about an experience. You know, you have heard about that many times. For example, when we check our NPS and satisfaction scores from our customers, all the touch points that has some interaction with our staff in any of the customer journeys are very important for our customers. Having said that, technology is helping us a lot. But I would say that it's not the technology is driving the customer behavior. The customers are driving us. Just a very quick example. I was just discussing with Justin a few seconds ago. We have had a bot for 10 months already in our app, in Facebook Messenger, and has been working, you know, around 200,000 conversations so far. But very recently, we launched here our WhatsApp channel to interact with our customers, a few use cases at the beginning, and it's like booming. So what that means is better the services that we are offering in WhatsApp compared with the services that we are offering in our app. No, they are not, but the customer choose the channel, choose how they want to interact with us. So I think this is nothing new, of course, but we have realized ourselves very, very, very recently that the customer choose how they want to interact, and you have to be there. That's as simple as that. And they are getting more control and more control. They want more information, and they want to be in control of the whole experience. And we have to allow the customer to do so with us.
Okay, thank you.
I just like to echo exactly what Gabriel said from a friendly competitor airline from the other side of the world. But I think everything that happens at our airline definitely is through the customer. So that's through you. You guys are the guys that choose which airline you take and what service that we have to provide. That being said, there's a friendly touch point in terms of seeing a customer's face, someone from the airline, but also actually more and more you'll see that the best kind of touch point is what's in your hand right now, the mobile phone. And you'll see nowadays more and more, we talk about seamless, whether it's seamless flow, seamless transition, you're going through airports, you're going through booking systems, without actually talking to an actual person. There are chatbots behind the scenes, there's technology now, and definitely in Europe, you'll see, depending whereabouts you travel from, now you actually don't have to see a physical person, right? You can check in online after you've bought your ticket, you get to the airport, you've got biometrics coming out now. You go to self-bag drop, you drop the bag's gone, you've not seen anyone. You go to security, scan. You don't even have to take your passport out. You go through security, you get to boarding gate. Again, it's the biometrics that you see, and onto the plane you go. That is the new world, and there is a market for that nowadays. So it's whether or not, as an airline, that you can actually provide that to those that want it. There will be people here that traditionally would also like to see that person and have that human interaction. So I think as an airline, we've got to get that balance right, and it's actually a lot more difficult than it is than you actually think.
what I find,
Amadeus. Okay, Antonio.
Yeah, what I find is I work with entrepreneurs, and I feel that, especially with entrepreneurs, we don't understand sometimes that tourism really impacts business. It's a big deal. And the airlines are the gateway for tourists. So the experience starts when they're booking online and they're checking in, and that experience runs through to coming into the country, like our wonderful South Africa, of course. And you need to have that experience from the touch point, getting off that plane, walking through customs and whatnot, and coming into the airport and coming into the country. And I find that what's lacking is that we don't have a seamlessness of the experience. Yes, you might have a wonderful experience at the airline. It's comfortable and whatnot, but if you walk through, we need to continue that. So what we do essentially is training and development, training our entrepreneurs to understand the importance of tourism and tourist attraction, because that is just as important as finance for non-financial managers, sales strategy, marketing, market penetration. Understanding how to attract tourists into your value proposition, especially if it's seasonal and you live in a country like South Africa where we have some turbulent times, but there's so much more to offer as well from a tourist point of view.
So I think a lot has been said already. Even for us as a B2B company, we truly understand that the traveler should be the center, that the experience is what matters. And so yes, and our travelers, they've evolved so much over the past years. They're all digital consumer. They consume Uber, they consume Netflix, they consume Amazon. They will expect the same frictionless personalization in everything that they do, and including travel. And so yes, we are working with our customers to enable such seamless experience. One thing that is very important is that airlines see one part of the journey, airports see one part of the journey, hotels will see one part of the journey. So at Amadeus, we're already trying to think about the experience in a kind of end-to-end, and find also and look in the external ecosystem into pieces of the puzzle that can complement this end-to-end experience.
I can only agree with what you said, Natalia. It's actually the reason for our existence. We only invest in travel tech. So we are completely convinced that tech is the way to change travel the way we know it. So nothing more to say from my side.
Inside the UNWTO, as you know, we are a United Nations agency, and what we have seen is that, of course, humanization is crucial, and of course, inside the tourism sector, it's one of the most important sectors in the world regarding innovation, because thanks to the dot-coms, thanks to internet, we have done a tech revolution. But we think we have a challenge, that is to make our innovation ecosystem stronger, to bring the startups with the corporates with the investors, the governments, the academia. So what are you doing in order to foster that ecosystem? Do you work with the startups, for example? Where are them?
I can only talk about, again, Cathay Pacific in Hong Kong, but we do a lot of work with actually local Hong Kong startups. What that means is they're startups in Hong Kong. They can actually be foreign owned, right? So we've got partners like Invest Hong Kong that do a great job in bringing foreign companies or foreign people that want to start up in Hong Kong. And if they've got a very good proposition within the travel industry with Cathay Pacific, we actually then bring them on board, and then we actually then sponsor them to go to summits like these here in South Summit in Madrid, Web Summit in Portugal, and various places around the world. But at the end of the day, these guys have to have a product that not just serves us as an airline, but ultimately serves you as a customer, right? Again, I hate to just repeat about the customer, but if it's a great product just to me as an airline, but it doesn't resonate with the customers, it's not going to be something that works. But I think the new world is that we're going to have to start working in partnership with these startups, be open, be innovative, be agile, to bring these guys on board to help us succeed as a business. Because we're a traditional legacy carrier. We've been around for 70 odd years, and infrastructure, process, everything like that, you know, it's stuff that needs to be, you know, re-looked at, and you need fresh minds and stuff like that. So I think definitely we do a lot of stuff with startups, and there's a lot of, you know, you might think they're wacky ideas right now, but Uber's down in Melbourne, trialing pilotless aircraft now. So, I mean, the world is out there.
I think probably there are a lot of startups here, but I think open innovation is not only startups. So I think we started probably with incorporating talent from outside, from the startups. Actually, the chatbot that we have launched in WhatsApp is in partnership with one startup that we are really proud of being launching this. But I think more and more is as well organizations, corporates and corporates, and by starting with this open innovation ecosystem working with startups, I think the corporates and organizations, for example, we have just signed a very important agreement with you on sustainability that I think is quite important as well for our industry. So we are signing agreements with other organizations, with other companies. We have a quite interesting chat before we arrive here with Justin. We can disclose anything, but these kind of things are more common. And it's not only startup. It's going to be a natural flow. It didn't happen 5 or 10 years ago. We need probably an external consultant just saying, okay, hey, I know Justin, I think you have to do something. And then you go into a meeting facilitated by someone. But right now it's quite more easy to do, and this is what we are aiming to do here, for example. This is our second year in South Summit, and one of the big values is that we have all this ecosystem concentrated. And we are growing and growing every year in that sense.
Well, I'd like to challenge the airlines to do
Go
a
ahead.
lot more,
We are used to that.
because airlines shouldn't be like banking, where it's pretty much the same, right? There should be something different in terms of the experience. And I like what you're saying with regards to coming out and meeting entrepreneurs. It's very important that we have that connection between, as Natalia says, governments, municipalities, corporates. We are the big corporates in the room. There's entrepreneurs here, government, who's here from government. So at events like this, to invite people over and have conversations, accessibility to leaders in organizations, in governments, within ecosystems is so important. And that's what we endeavor to do, especially in Africa, because it can be turbulent and it is still such a huge tourist attraction. In South Africa alone, we contribute 9% to our GDP for tourism. And South Africa is the second largest African country that's being visited by tourists, 9.5 million a year. So how do we increase that? And who are the key players? So we work in terms of bringing the entrepreneurs in, exposing them to more opportunities, so that when tourists come, they'll have those key opportunities in their businesses, and then making tourism more government-friendly, tourist more centric environments and ecosystem in the country and wherever else we train and develop. So that's important.
Can I just add one quick thing there? Because you said airlines to challenge us, so
Yes.
I'm come back. So just to give you an idea, as part of this WhatsApp that we work with in a startup, we have been one of the first airlines, I don't know, the first, second, third, I don't care, to just get virtual reality on board, okay? And during the trials with another startup, the server that is on board was like a bomb. The two yellow cylinders. They were the batteries, okay, and we were putting that on board to streaming the content into the customers. And the first flight, the testing flight, was to Tel Aviv, okay.
Wow.
So they were going to Tel Aviv, disembarking, embarking again in Tel Aviv, one of the most strict countries in the world. So we were managing to do so in a very regulated industry, in a very risk-adverse company, and it has to be like that, okay, safety first. In an airline, but and we managed to do it, and we are really wanted to do more things in that sense. But just to, I received the sign.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Here we go.
Maybe I can say a few words about that too. So, as a head of innovation at Amadeus, so as I said, we are looking for the next big ideas that have a potential to transform the travel experience. And we are very aware that it will not come just from the inside of Amadeus, from the company. So we need absolutely to look around. And the second thing where we need, I think all of us needs to be very humble, is that in the current world, we don't know what will happen, right? We don't know how we can make money in this changing world and everything. So The startup ecosystem offers a way to test and learn, so to have many people trying new business model, and so working with them is the best way to see to validate these business models. So at Amadeus, we work with startup through a fund. So we have Amadeus Ventures, looking at investing in those emerging startups. We have also partnerships schemes with startup. And finally, we also have a platform where we open APIs. So our APIs to enable startups to build on top of our technology, but also we host startups API to offer a kind of travel API ecosystem. And we hope that it will enable new use cases, new businesses to be developed on top of there.
I just want to emphasize that due to the fragmented and massive industry which is travel, innovation should be approached from a more open perspective. I think that probably in all the verticals there should be competition between the corporates in order to get the latest development. In the travel industry is absurd. Nobody is capable to get all the innovation at the right time. So I think there are enough space for us, for all of us to cooperate. What Natalia was saying before, the importance of creating the right ecosystem. So it's totally logical that we cooperate with Amadeus, with Iberia, with all the institutions, that they all have as well their corporate ventures, their own acceleration programs, the support of the World Travel Organization. So I think we have to change our mind. This is not a race one against the other, but it's a common effort in which all that we are here must be represented and fostered in the same direction.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything is about collaboration. And of course, if we are here in tourism, personalization, humanization, new experiences are crucial because, of course, if we don't innovate every single day, every single tourist is a different person. So when you go to an airline, it doesn't matter. You have to innovate because there is one customer that is quite different from the other one. When you go to a hotel, when you travel and hire or pay for a package, everyone needs their attention. And of course, nowadays what we have seen is that it's a hyper-personalization because, of course, that's why big data is crucial here. That's why artificial intelligence is crucial to predict, for example, what type of tourists are coming to Spain, what is the profile, how can avoid over-tourism, et cetera, et cetera. So regarding the challenges that we have, what's the next big thing in tourism? What do you think?
Depends how forward-thinking you are, I think.
For tomorrow.
I think I touched on it earlier. I think the biggest one that'll come in and impact you as a customer really soon will be, if you like, almost like a seamless transition from when you book your tickets, getting onto the flight. And what I would like to say, and kind of what you mentioned, is actually not much has been looked at when you actually get off the flight. Everything is all before the flight because it's a little bit siloed, I guess, but from an airline perspective that's the experience that I can control, right? I can maybe facilitate, put a little bit of pressure on border control, et cetera, et cetera. In some countries, it's harder than others, but the worst thing that I experience, and those that travel to the UK a lot, is you get off the plane and you end up lining up for an hour and a half waiting for passport control. Like, that is probably the worst 1.5 hours because you can't do anything. You've got your phone or something like that, but no one's really looked at it. Now, actually, when you go through London Heathrow, for myself at least, being Australian, I've got the e-gates, right? So I can go in, and it's now gone from a 1.5 hour wait to 15 minutes, right? But that's the stuff that I think the future is going to happen, in that if we can start getting, all this technology, all the biometrics correct, you'd be able to go in and out of from when you get dropped off at the airport onto your plane in 15, 20 minutes. And then when you get off, you'd be into an Uber in 5 almost. And I think that's going to be something that you'll see very, very, very soon.
Very soon.
Very, very, very soon.
Very soon.
I think yes, that's right. I think as well. I think thinking on what could be the trial sector. I think we have been seeing, for example, Thomas Cook case very recently. So something is changing in the way that the customers wants to contract or to book for the experiences. I think more and more, and everything starts with the airline. You were right. So in average 6 months in advance. You book the flight. Depends if it's long haul, short haul, whatever. But the first thing that you do is you secure the flight because probably the price will go up. We can discuss that in another event, okay? But because it will take hours. But from that point, I think the customer wants to build their own experience, okay? Just taking bits and pieces all across the experience. Maybe a car to go to the airport and experience a destination. I want just to select my food before I go even into the aircraft, and that's where it links not with our big data. At the end, a lot has been said on personalization on the marketing, okay? But I think it's even more important to have the big data on our operations and on having real-time information which reads to our employees and to our customers. Because using the big data for marketing, okay, have been tons of lectures to go through. But having the big data on the operations, just when a customer 1 hour and a half before the flight just selects, I want to eat the fish, or I want something different. Have the operations working as as an orchestra to have that food boarded into the plane. That's where the magic happens. Because otherwise the digital experience is good. I just request it, but if it doesn't happen, it's even more frustrating. So we are currently applying one of our big programs is to have this data lake and this big data applied to operations, and that they work real time. And an airline operations, I have to say, it's not an easy thing. So this is our next step, and to personalize, and the customer is able to personalize their whole experience, taking something from here, something from here, something from here.
Yes, so to continue on this, I do see as one of the big disruptors, not just of tourism, but of the world, by the way, everything around AI, and driven by this flow of data brought by the digitalization that we've seen over the past 20 years. That this AI can be applied to improve the experience through personalization. We've talked about it through operations. And I do agree that this will require a lot of, to work also on the data availability, to get data quality, but not just for one player like you, but also be able to exchange data across each other. Yep. So recently we are working with a startup called Dawex. They are doing data marketplace, so to enable exchange of data across players who can collaborate, exchange, and also monetize the data that they have. So I do believe that we'll see more and more of these new models emerging.
We have managed not to say blockchain yet.
No.
50 seconds and we...
Javier, what have you seen? What are the most interesting projects in the tourism sector regarding investments?
I would be more pragmatic. I think that what is really relevant is what Gabriel has said. Try to provide a frictionless experience to the users. So I think before talking about AI, we should be capable to have two different legacy systems talking together, which is not admissible, is that you get a boarding gate in your first operator carrier, and you cannot get the second boarding gate, and that you don't receive the information of the lounge in which you can pick up the baggage, or the gate in which that you are boarding. And that's something that, as you said, should be managed, sharing the data, organizing the data, and having the client in mind. So any startup which should be capable to provide these services to the large players would be a really interesting company to invest in.
Yeah. And Antonia?
Honing in all the players is very important for me. You've mentioned collaboration, accessibility. We need some bright spark entrepreneur to come on board and say, let's have the seamless process. Let's get all the different participants in place. The airline, from the airline to the hotels, let's link it to certain entrepreneurs and experiences. the taxi drivers and all of those things, and so that you can have this wonderful experience when you visit a country instead of coming here not knowing how the Wi-Fi works. Simple things like that can actually deter a tourist. So to have this wonderful experience from end to end almost, because innovation isn't always digital. You know, the guy with the buffet table for breakfast, his staff didn't pitch one day and he thought, how do I serve everyone? Just put a big table out in front and put all the food on it. So let's have entrepreneurs, we're rooting for entrepreneurs to come up with ideas that can have the seamless process in little ecosystems in your various regions. I think that's going to work fantastically.
I'd just like to add, I think everyone here has touched on a very, very crucial point in the last 2 minutes or so, is that we've got all these great ideas and all these future forward-thinking things that we could, be innovative and to launch. But as kind of Gabrielle mentioned, for a company that's very big, a big corporate, delivering on that is ultimate. You can promise something to the customer, but then if something falls down, that one little piece falls down on that journey, you're going to cause a hell of a lot more angst or negative goodwill per se than you would have any positive thing. So there's a lot of ideas that we as Cathay Pacific Iberia probably have in the back of our mind that we're not willing to share at the moment. It's because we haven't really figured out how we as a company would be able to deliver it successfully to enhance your travel experience. And I think that's also something that's really key, that when people are trying to be innovative, whether they be tech or process driven, is that, again, what is the impact on the end consumer? Because if you don't get that right and it's not deliverable, ultimately it's not something that's gonna fly.
I think one of the good news is that there are still many, many processes which are lagging behind in terms of digitalization, or there are still pockets of frictions that are addressable by entrepreneurs. So as an example, we've talked recently to a company who've identified the process of VAT refunding. As a traveler foreign to Europe, for example, an Australian, you can, if you do a purchase in Europe, you are eligible to get VAT refund. And this process today is so complex, so manual, so a lot of queuing and everything that nobody's doing. And so this startup has tackled this and is providing a completely so much improved experience that this could be generalized. So they find like the perfect pocket of friction to remove.
I know pretty well that startup because that startup won the first global startup competition of the UNWTO. So the name is Refunded. Just to end, because of course time is over, I think just to add about the discussion, if we want to innovate in the tourism sector, we have to be sustainable. Of course, sustainability here is crucial. I don't know if you have seen climate change, if you have been in the beaches full of plastic, for example, when you see the gas emissions, when you see the weather, so today we are cold, maybe tomorrow not, that's our responsibility inside the tourism sector. So to me, new technologies has to be aware about sustainability and, of course, top solutions that would bring solutions to the world that we are developing here for the next generations are crucial. So thank you so much. I have been enjoyed a lot talking with investors, with corporates, of course with you, Antonia, that are here inside of our house. And enjoy the lunch. And thank you so much for being here today.
Okay.
Thank you.